Bowen Transition Subcommittee.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a game, tell me if I'm right. And 5.1C is going to be, no, this is 6.1B as well, Laura. Yes? 6.1B?
B, yes.
Yeah.
The video
Okay.
series?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
1B. So these two are for that, the Board and Transition Subcommittee.
Okay.
And then
Yeah.
this is estimate of the cost for the solar panels
Yeah.
for the bike run, therefore it would be 5.1C.
Oh, great.
Want to agree with that?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I have.
Okay. I also would like to respond to an email that Denise sent, that we should add, I guess, as new business, a request for expression of interest regarding sovereignty and food sharing and spiritual care.
Yeah,
So I'd like you to talk to us about that.
thanks. Okay.
So where will that be? 7.7?
7.2,
7.2, let's go with that.
7.1.
Or 7.1 on
This
this?
one. Yeah, yeah.
So Will, do you
Yeah.
have the email that I sent you on, I don't have my plan with me, because it has the application and everything. on
Oh,
it.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, it was sent to me via emergency EMBC, RDSS, and.
I think I have it.
You sent it to me, yeah.
I sent it to
Yeah,
you.
you sent it to me. So it was just a really quick, I don't
So
know
I'll
what.
print it and we can inform the discussion at 7.2.
Yeah, I think that would
Okay,
be
I
really
can
hard,
find it.
because then otherwise I'm not going to be able to speak clearly enough.
Yeah,
great.
okay, I've got something here.
And Will, I've got a transportation advisory committee update, but I've actually got several updates from an array of different committees. Can I just have that?
Call it the David update.
Call it an update.
Yeah,
Okay.
where shall we put that?
It's already here.
Yeah, 6.1 update.
One? Yeah,
Okay.
oh, gotcha, okay.
I got a few things to update.
Yeah. So, shall we have a motion to approve the minutes?
Agenda.
Agenda, thank you.
Agenda?
Mark, seconder? Yeah? In favor? Carried. All right. Now let's, the minutes. And Jeff has been able to pore over the minutes in the few seconds that you
Actually, so.
well done, thank you. So, how are the minutes for people? Any corrections or changes?
Good to me.
Do we have a motion to
Sure, I'll
approve?
move the minutes.
David, seconder, Alan, in favor, carried. No public comments? Action items. So we have a list of action items.
Do you want to read them?
Sure.
So Alan, we worked together to create a plan on water conservation.
Ellen and I have talked briefly in the Ruddy Potato, talking about how we're going to get together very soon to...
Ongoing?
Yes, ongoing,
Okay.
And
yes.
I'm glad to add that I did send for your review in our future meeting to discuss a handbook for water champions put out by the Polish Water Sustainability Project and the Center for Indigenous Environmental Resources, which might be some seed information for
Yeah.
further
A great
discussion.
starting point.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Mark, contact
Municipal Natural Assets Initiative.
Report back, ongoing?
So ongoing,
Is there any
I've tried through their website and I've tried through their Facebook and I haven't gotten a response yet. I know the mayor of Gibson's is like the chair of it, so I'm gonna send him an email. A polite email. Just, so I don't know. So,
Okay,
What page is that on?
page 5, sorry, 9.
9.
Thank you.
The Bowen Transition Subcommittee, bring recommendations back to the, we'll be talking about that later on. In the agenda. Read the 2 letters provided by Councillor Hocking and provide comments by email by May 22nd.
Is that even on our agenda to do
I
something?
wonder if
about
that was
letters?
from last one and it
Those
just
are those letters that I wrote,
it
and
got
so,
carried over.
yeah, we
That's my
obviously weren't gonna
mistake.
nitpick at a meeting, we
Yeah.
were supposed to look at them.
Yeah.
And then we would send them to whole array of oil companies and, who did I write them to?
oh, I don't even know. I didn't know what letters you were talking about. I was just reading over. Okay. So have those been sent around?
Yes.
Don't they have to go to council?
They would have to go to council, but we have to agree to them.
Yeah.
This is two meetings ago, I think it was. I agreed to write letters. It was to all the oil companies about recognizing that, you know, all society is having to pay for the costs of their work, and asking them to do something about that, and to was it the minister? It was 2 months ago. I can't
So
remember.
was it gonna be for the UDCM, so is that the one? So May 15th, the letters, then a deadline for comments.
Yep.
Recommendation to council, and the council,
It would have to go to the one before.
and then UDCM.
no.
Something about that.
Okay, well, if we all can't remember them, and I can't even remember who the 2 people were that I wrote it to, I guess we have to put that onto the next agenda. We all have to, but I guess I should recirculate them,
Would you? That would
if I
be
could
great,
find
right?
them. I'm sure I can find them.
It was,
This came out
a
of,
blank in my head when
Yeah.
I came across
okay,
that.
I'll recirculate them.
Yeah, I thought it was because I hadn't been here at the last meeting.
Yeah, yeah. But it was 2 meetings ago that I agreed to do it, but anyway, it doesn't matter. I'll recirculate the letters.
Okay. I think I sent that reminder email.
Yep.
Will climate leadership contact Islands trustee?
That is another one that has to, it's ongoing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Engage with council on strategic planning regarding the climate conversation.
Yeah,
Anyone ask for funding?
I think we talked about a small amount of funding, so I believe that's done. But Maureen would have a better memory of it than me because she's been kind of the lead on that. But she brought it up at our discussion.
Okay,
And we can
so we'll just
check with
carry
Maureen next
next
meeting.
meeting, yep.
Will doodle poll the emergency subcommittee?
Done.
Yep,
Done.
done.
Will, we're gonna later notify the schools, that's
Yep,
later.
so, hopefully, I can do that after this meeting, because,
Right.
we'll be discussing the letter for approval, so.
Okay. Carla, we're gonna find a version of beat that is more suitable for Bowen.
I haven't emailed them yet, but,
Okay. Ongoing?
well, I will.
Ongoing.
Ongoing. Locate community energy emission statistics and circulate to the committee. Did she send those around?
No,
I don't think so.
Okay. And you have already confessed that you did not send them.
That's right.
Confession time over.
Yep. Okay. Business arising from the minutes, the Climate Action Revenue Incentive Program from Councillor Nicholson. I think I guess that's some of these documents that,
Councillor, can you share this one?
Well, the work has been done. It's to, if you look at the recommendations on page 11 of 46, It's, that council direct the Environment and Climate Action Advisory Committee to discuss options for the disbursement of the CARIP grant fund. So we got $4,000, I think it is, 4,015.
Yeah.
No, just like that's, yeah, be used for solar panels for the bike barn. These funds were insufficient for project.
All right.
Yeah, staff is recommending that ECAAC discuss disbursement of each 2018 CARIP funds. And that portion, okay, so, yeah, so that's why we need to have a look at this, yeah.
Yeah, so I spoke to Emma about that because I guess the funds from last year
Yeah.
also weren't spent, and that was because
Yeah.
they were intended, I think this group decided that they should be used for solar panels on the bike barn, but it turned out to be quite expensive.
Yeah.
So that they thought that the funds from this past year could also be used.
Yeah.
So that was what this was about.
Yeah.
This is an estimate only for the installation. So I know Maureen had said that there was some sort of a buying power deal with someone where we could purchase solar panels for cheaper because they were buying in bulk. However, that's not really the issue. It's more about getting electricity to the bike barn. So that's going to cost around, it's $11,500 about.
And that's just for getting electricity there?
That's just the electricity.
Okay.
And then the solar panels themselves were around 5,000.
Oh, so we're looking at, we've got a total of 8,000, and we're looking at twice that.
Yeah. I think it's to add to this, I went to the meeting about the solar co-op at Collins Hall, I guess 2 weekends ago now.
Yeah.
And it's very, very exciting because I think it's people on Pender or one of the other Gulf Islands have formed Galliano. They've got a co-op that is bulk buying solar panels and working with one company that is installing. And what they're saying is the installing company has been doing it enough that they're extremely fast and inexpensive. There's no learning curve on there at all for installation. And so they're rampaging socialists, and so they were saying that one of the reasons they're here is to spread the word to Bowen Islanders that we're welcome to join. And Sue Ellen and Maureen were there, and they suggested that an option would be for the municipality to take out a membership too, and that makes it so that you can bulk buy or and get some of their expertise about installation. So pretty exciting.
There was a comment a few days ago with Maureen, I think Laura was there, where we were talking with Dave Pollard about this, and he was quite well informed about the situation. And there was a comment that there might be also an interest to look at heat pumps through the same venue,
Exactly.
so that we can actually look at a more rounded system.
Yeah.
overall.
Awesome.
And so those are the two big moves that you could do as an individual or a group. The seniors co-op is looking into this too. They're pretty excited about getting a foothold in the solar and heat pump options. So,
Good.
Al?
Just to add to that, Belterra was also very interested. And this CAC Renewable Energy Co-op also said that they were willing to just provide all their bylaws to be used as a template for anybody who wanted to create their own co-op. So
Yeah.
very,
Yeah.
very cooperative approach.
So there's two options on Bowen, is a separate co-op or join the one that exists. My thought, I've joined that co-op, just because I know that they have expertise, and the bylaws are already done, all the heavy lifting for forming a co-op is there, and they're also, they're buying in bulk now, so, but again, they're more than happy to work either way, so.
That's
So,
David.
will, in order for anyone on Bowen to participate on this, does the municipality have to, or
No,
what?
No.
What action is needed here?
I think the only action is I think get the information out, and to join the co-op, you fill out a membership request form and give them $100. And so, it's kind of like Mountain Equipment Co-op, and if you drop a chunk of money, that gives them capital to operate. And so the reason that the municipality was thinking about, two councillors were thinking about this, is that municipal buildings could be supplied by this co-op. So the fire hall and the
The community center or whatever.
community center. The other thing that they're talking of, that this co-op talks about too, is they help people build buildings that are solar ready, so that you get the wiring and the place where you put the inverters and all that stuff into the building, so that at a later date you could put the solar panels in very easily and quickly. So lots of good options for homeowners that if you're building and you don't have enough capital at the moment for solar panels, you design the building to easily take it.
So,
And just in regard to your question, joining that cooperative and finding out what it would cost through the co-op to do the buy of the solar panels would revise this
right.
optional cost estimate, things like that.
I guess we have a couple of things before us. Like, one is,
Excuse me for a second, but if we recommend that the municipality joins this co-op, I mean,
okay,
Yeah.
a couple of things before us. Like, one is we've got to respond about, how will we spend the 4 plus 4, $8,000.
Yeah.
And so clearly, regardless of what deal we might get on solar panels, we don't have enough money just yet. But I'd like also to discuss this a little bit. I don't know why we need a new power pole, so I'd like to discuss this, because I'm not happy with it. And then in terms of the co-op, that's a sort of a separate thing, but we can make a recommendation, or maybe it's a council, or maybe it's simply a communication job. We need to inform residents that they could join this co-op.
Yeah.
We can make a recommendation or do our own work or whatever on that. So if we could just talk about this for a second,
Sure.
since this is the agenda item,
Yeah.
does anybody, Carla, why do we need a new power pole? Because I don't want one.
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, we've already had a fuss where Hydro wants to put another pole in front of the library, and we're objecting because we got enough power poles down there and it looks awful.
Yeah.
I mean,
And I can't imagine one more. Where would it go?
I know, and I had said that to Emma too. I was like,
Yeah.
why do we need a new power pole? And
Yeah.
she said, I don't really know either. But then we thought, well, it is on a dock, and it's not like they can put it underground, right? So that's the only
Yeah.
kind of justification I can see.
But there's power for the wharf and everything.
You know,
Well, that's kind of what I thought
they
too,
have
but
those special,
know if
I
they-
forget what it's called, conduit. Not
Yeah.
conduit,
Yeah.
but that black plastic thick stuff.
Yeah,
We put it in my old place
yeah.
as a way of avoiding power pole.
Yeah.
Okay, well, why don't we need to follow up on this and just say, okay,
Yeah.
we need to
maybe
find
we
out.
can get,
Just-
maybe we can get
How?
another estimate
Yeah, maybe you
or a
could,
second
yeah.
opinion about it.
get a second opinion, if you could sort of follow up on that as to, okay, why do we need a new power pole? Because we don't wanna spend the $11,000 and we don't want another power pole.
Yeah.
Sure, I'll ask, I can ask Greg about that, cause this came from Greg, the building inspector.
Oh, okay,
So
sure.
I kind of,
So,
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
he's
That's an
you would
excellent
know
point.
better probably.
yeah, I mean,
than
maybe we
anyone
have to have
else,
a
so
power
maybe
pole,
that
in
is
which case,
Yeah.
really the case, right?
in
Yeah.
which case, okay, we'll have to come up with
Yeah.
$11,000 one day.
Yeah, and if it's something to do with bylaws, municipal bylaws, maybe it would be time to revisit that. If the design requirement is that you have to have a power pole and other options, maybe, I think from the point of view of safety and durability, something other than a power pole, you know, again, you've got that easy access underneath the dock there that wouldn't be exposing people to the cables and that kind of thing. And again, the conduit would be in some kind of waterproof and people-proof tube. So, any other questions that, on this?
I guess it's, we're asked to figure out what we're gonna do to spend now $8,000, and it isn't gonna be this, unless we don't need a power pole and we can do something else. So I guess we should just sort of wait on that?
Yeah.
It's not time sensitive, you're saying, right?
It's not time sensitive, I don't think. If
We
we
don't-
didn't spend the 4 last year, we're good.
Well, yeah, we didn't spend the 4 last year, we don't
Okay.
even have the 4 yet, I mean,
Yeah,
I only
right.
just submitted it
Yeah.
it was by June 1st, so
Yeah.
I'm sure it takes them a little bit to get the
Yeah,
money to us.
before we get a check in the mail.
Yeah,
Yeah.
unless, I know you guys are gonna speak to this afterwards, but unless we want to, talk about the Bowen and transition, is there any rush on that?
I don't know what kind of timeline they wanted. What we did speak about was the concerns that came from council that had to do with the content and making sure that the content was, let's say, stable, or that it would be what we would want to see in the video. So how do we monitor that? How do we make sure the content is correct?
I think we should wait
Yeah.
to discuss that.
When we get there.
But the money isn't, it's just
Yeah.
not time
Right.
sensitive,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's, okay.
So does this need to stay on the agenda for next month then? or
I
we
think
can-
so.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, good.
Yeah, and, you know, I think the action item is to ask for clarification on why we need a power pole and are there other options, and would this even require a different quote?
Okay, all right.
Okay? Do we need to make a motion, or is that,
No, I can follow up,
Okay,
that's no
great.
problem, okay.
so next business. We've staff report to council, that's B? Is that where we are?
No, the A and B are just the supporting documents,
Yeah,
so
okay.
just go to the next number.
Okay. Climate conversations.
There we go.
Worry.
So we'll just have to wait for Maureen. Maybe we can, maybe it's something, should I email her and ask her if she wants to circulate information about the trash talk to the
So
group before?
She sent an email.
Yeah.
We'll just say we should have a conversation about this.
Yeah.
What do people think about that idea?
Did she have a speaker that she suggested, an expert?
Did it email it to everybody, didn't it? No.
I think so, I think it went to,
Mm.
oh, well,
I don't think it went to Jeff.
Not Jeff.
Yeah.
He wasn't on the group.
Oh.
I think she wants to know what you guys think of that. Okay. Here it is. I'd like to organize a session on where our garbage and resource goes and what happens to it. Needs refinement as a session, so checking for interest.
Yes, so she asked and we said.
Right,
we said
yeah.
A bunch of us said yes.
Yeah, that definitely interesting. It-
Definitely interested.
Yeah, well, I'll just, do I speak for the
Needs
group?
refinement,
Definitely interested?
Yeah, I'm interested.
Yeah.
for sure.
It's certainly timely with garbage making its way back here from the Philippines.
Indeed.
How about you, Jeff? Yeah, okay.
And the refinement part?
Refinement, I think we leave to Councillor Nicholson,
Yeah, she was-
unless we've got if there's some suggestions for speakers or,
I don't know,
I'd suggest Louise.
for sure.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
definitely.
And I think Councillor Nicholson will have some ideas already about what needs refining,
Yeah.
given her big concept.
Yeah,
But yes, certainly that's one refinement.
We need a bit more info. I mean, I could do some research. You know, to what extent are things able to be recycled in our region? Now that you can't just ship stuff overseas to other countries. I know some plastics are recyclable here, some aren't. But I'd have, you know, I don't know the answer to that. It's complicated.
yeah.
It'd be good to get all that kind of information. I mean, I could get it from Metro Vancouver.
Could you ask,
I could ask Paul for that.
could you ask him to speak?
I could ask maybe somebody from Metro. It's hard to get somebody. It's just like it's hard to get somebody from the mainland to come here
Yeah.
and then take a late ferry home and all that kind of stuff and drive to Burnaby or wherever the heck they come from.
What about a projection on Skype or something, even like a 15 or 20-minute talk with different people, we could sit down and have a conversation?
Okay. I'll check. I'll follow up.
Thanks, Dave.
Okay.
Any more discussion on the trash talk? Okay. Updates. Number
Oh, that's
6.
me.
Gabriel,
Okay. Just a sec.
transfer.
So a couple of things. Council meeting, things that involve climate work and transportation work. So the multi-use path across the island.
Yeah.
Was on the last council agenda. It was really unfortunate what happened is that the budget for it was figured out by an engineering company. They estimated, I forget what the number was. And so Emma then applied for funding and got a whole lot of funding. So there was about nearly 7/8 of it was going to be funded by outside people. But the budget, when she put it out to RFP, the two companies ended up coming in with numbers that are way, way higher, a couple of $100,000 higher than what the engineering estimate was. And so it was really a bit of a dicey discussion at council because we had to go find the money from somewhere else. But we did, and we voted in favor of to support it. So the work will be started soon. I don't know when. You can ask Emma when that'll start. But that's up for that's the top first zigzag corner, Charlie's Lane, and that's the hardest piece of work that has to be done for the whole thing. And so that's sort of get that dangerous corner done right off the top. It'll be done. I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but there will be some. An environmental side to this, environmental protection, because it's a riparian area on that steep slope down. So there will be some lock block walls built to support the path on the outside of that. And so obviously there'll have to be all kinds of work making sure that there's no damage into the riparian area below. So that's a tricky piece of work, but it's going to happen and it'll be done this summer.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
Alan?
And full disclosure there, I'm the environmental consultant for that project and have been involved in the mitigation planning And they give prior assessment for that, particularly the part about Turtle Creek.
Yeah.
That's a comfort, thank you, that's
Yeah,
good to know.
great. Yeah, thanks, Alan.
Yeah.
Ferry Advisory Committee. So we had a nice long discussion. One of our things is an electric ferry, obviously, from a climate perspective, since that's, what was that, me? Was okay. Since that's one of our big areas of emissions. So we had a good long discussion with them. They were certainly, BC Ferries were certainly open to the discussion, and they are already working on what they can do about electric ferries. But there are a number of obstacles. One is, of course, just getting the amount of power needed down into Horseshoe Bay. But they are doing a rebuild of Horseshoe Bay Terminal over the next few years. And so presumably there will be something like that built into that. But other issues are just simply the how long capital lasts, capital turnover. You know, you got to, I'm just seeing the ferry, it's right out there. It's just had its midlife refit, so it's got another, whatever, 15, 20 years, something like that. In BC Ferries capital plan, it will be replaced by the Island Sky. If anyone's gone up to Powell River, that's the Island Sky. That's a boat for that one. In 2036, something like that. Now, by 2036, we should be on our way to being carbon neutral. So the Island Sky will not help us be carbon neutral, but we've got all that capital. You know, this is not an easy, it's not an easy task to just say, okay, let's go all electric.
Yeah.
And there are a bunch of other problems in terms of the big boats going across. Having batteries for that, that's very heavy, and it's just like planes. Little short-haul planes could maybe be electric, but big planes going across big areas can't be electric.
Yeah.
Not right now, not for a good while. So anyway, we had a good discussion with them. One thing they did say that's useful is that the new ferries that they're getting will be hybrids, where they'll be, they could be converted to full battery. So it'll be electric, probably natural gas hybrid, something like that. It could be converted to battery over time when that becomes available. So anyway, those discussions will continue. One other bit of information, the refit will be January to, I forget, 3 weeks I think it is, mid-January to the beginning of February sometime. And so we discussed what's going to happen about that. The great thing that happened in the last refit, the big refit, was Peter's bus ended up, you know, they put in a bus to take extra people, and that became something that changed a whole lot of people's lives because it became part of our system. So they're looking at several options, including running water. They know it's going to be, once again, it's going to be the Bowen Queen, which is way smaller than our new enlarged boat. So they're looking at perhaps water taxi service, perhaps an additional bus, and then they will do parking and stuff like that. So there might be something that comes out of that that, once again, can be something that we run as a pilot and learn and turn into something that could last. So that's coming up in the winter. I was at an interesting conference, the Renewable Cities Conference last week in Vancouver, international conference put on by SFU. It was hosted by SFU, and it was really interesting. And it's all around climate change and what can be done and so on. A couple of things that struck me, it was a lot about how can municipalities work with other levels of government, and it's a lot of the examples were, you know, people from California and Oregon and things that didn't really apply that much to us. But some of the interesting things, there was Alex Boston, who is at SFU, gave a presentation on GHG emissions per capita, like where do they come from? And he showed some interesting research that looked at a map of Toronto, or Greater Toronto, and then GHG emissions per person and where they lived. And basically the correlation was how far you live from work. It's basically, that's it. And then one of the things they said is, in terms of municipalities, you looked at all the things you can do in terms of climate action. And in terms of the municipalities, you know, with our scope of action, land use planning is a big thing, to address exactly what I was just saying, so that people can live closer to work. And for us, that means closer to Snug Cove, or have easier transportation to Snug Cove, rather than everyone having to drive. So, I mean, it's stuff we already know, but it was interesting to see it sort of on the screen, and with some data that supports it.
And that's great to see that it really supports the intra-island trail.
Yes.
Because there's
Yeah.
some big chip opportunities to use that as a commuting
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
artery.
Yeah, exactly. Kids going to school and so on.
Yeah.
Couple of other things in some of the work that we've got in the next item on the agenda or somewhere down here. The Advisory Planning Commission. So one of the other things that I'm trying to do is a land use planning approach called conservation development, which means clustering of homes to protect the environment, but also clustering them around transportation routes. So that task was given to the Advisory Planning Commission last week, and they agreed to take it on, and they formed a subcommittee to work on it, and I'm part of that subcommittee. So we've got a meeting next week or something like that. So that's moving forward. And the final thing that I'm working on is composting. We've talked about it quite a bit here, and Carla and I are both looking at the material that we've actually worked on over the last few years and meeting with various people who are actually doing this work. So we'll have more to talk about that in the next while. We're trying to find if there's a way that we could do this that's affordable and low risk for Bowen. And it's a tricky issue, but that's what we can do. So more to come on that later. So that's from a few different committees and things that I'm involved in.
Thanks, David. Any comments or questions based on that? David, the one thing that comes to my mind about BC ferries and electric options,
Yeah.
and seeing that, you know, that capitalization
Yeah.
of big boats
Yeah.
is such a problem. That I'm wondering about passenger-only ferries, being, you know, an electrification, if they've got any options there for instead of
Yeah.
expanding boats or you know, adding
Yeah.
more superstructure to things like the Queen of Capilano. If they,
That's-
do they have plans for it?
We keep reminding them of the importance of that, and that's another point that I did make at the meeting, is that from a GHG perspective, electric ferries, low emission ferries are great, but actually moving people instead of cars is even better. Now, it does mean that the province would have to invest more in transit, but buses are a lot cheaper than big ships.
Yeah.
So,
And buses are a lot cheaper than a wider road too.
yeah, yes, right. Yeah, so, you know, we've been talking to them about that for quite a few years. At first, there was real pushback, because BC Ferries was ferries, you know? The idea was moving cars around. That was sort of from the 50s and 60s, and that was, but there's a whole lot less pushback now. They're interested, and one of the things is that ferry terminal over there is jammed. They don't have room. It's a narrow opening, it's a busier terminal than Tawasin, and they can't fit any more big ships going in and out. So looking at simpler alternatives is one of the things they are looking at and have to look at.
Yeah, great. Okay. Anything else from the members? Okay. I guess we're at, okay, we've got BIMTAC, we've done that.
Yeah.
And I guess now it's Bowen and Transition Subcommittee?
So we have these two pieces of paper.
Yep.
One is the basic proposal that was given, and at the back of the proposal, you will see that there's a list of different opportunities or ideas that came forward. The actual information about how much it costs is on some page, and I believe it's $35 an hour, approximately 300 something per video, 10 hours each video. And they're considering, what it was, 6 videos that they're considering asking to start. And according to Maureen, it went to council, and council came back asking about the monitoring of the content. And we put forward perhaps that could be done just in a certain way, that the content be monitored by, in some way that it would be reviewed before it gets said.
Yeah.
In some way of point form or anything that would help us get some grounding on that. And I don't know, is there anything else?
No, just like preparing questions
Yeah.
ahead of time, really was.
Could I find, Steph, can you find our minutes of council meeting? So this was not the last meeting, but the meeting before. So this was well received by council, and in terms of content, like the topics, everybody thought, yeah, these are a bunch of good topics. So there was, like, and in terms of, one of the things that I raised, but I have no idea, I'd have to look at the minutes, is that
June 10th or
it would be
May 13th?
probably, yeah. Let's see what it says. One of the things that I would have said, or I was thinking of saying, is whenever you're co-branding something, I mean, Bowen Island already has a brand. It has a way it, communicates and all that sort of stuff. So it has to align with that.
Yeah.
So that's always sort of means you need a way of sort of working together. That's all. So that it's not like there's a lack of trust or any worry about that. It's just that it just this is it's got to fit the brand. It's got to fit the brand. It's got to fit the way we speak and all that sort of stuff. So let's see if there's anything in here. What's me? What's that? No.
What am I looking for?
The Bowen in Transition.
Is it a delegation?
No,
I
don't
might
think
have
so.
a draft minutes.
What was it? It's too bad Maureen's not here. She'd have better memory than me. So what do we need to do here?
One of the questions that came
Yeah.
forward were, of all these topics, if we could consider this project, what would be the 6 items that we want to use or highlight or do videos of? And how would we want to monitor it? How would we want to monitor the content? And I don't know, that's all I remember really
Yeah.
of the discussion.
As far as we go.
So, I've got a question for number 3 about branding again. And I would suggest that, I would ask the question, would it be better to co-brand Bowen in Transition with Bowen Island Municipality rather than a volunteer subcommittee?
Good
Us.
question.
And so my thought would be, it would be more powerful if it came from BIM, and I think maybe the task or the function of our group would be to be the first sieve of this, and so I think it's going to depend on the video making process that Bowen in Transition uses. Do they do storyboards? Do they do scripts? And so those kind of things would be where we would be reviewers of those steps, so that if they're doing scripts and storyboards, we'd see those and make comments with the brand of Bowen Island Municipality in mind, and we would probably pass on reports to council and staff based on that. And so I think we need a little more information from Bowen in Transition on what's your standard process for developing a video, and then when we know that, we can identify things that the steps that we should be involved in. Alan?
Two thoughts come to mind here. One is that First of all, I do agree that Bowen Island Municipality being the co-sponsor or co-producer
Yeah.
is much stronger. Our role as a committee, we would need to receive guidance about this vetting, that the branding matches and so on. There are people within the municipality who are
Yeah.
well versed in that.
Yeah, definitely.
Our committee, at least I'm not
Yeah.
very well versed in that, other than that, tell your friends it's awful here, and that type of stuff. So adapting that, and as far as the content or the way Bowen in Transition has been producing, I've seen the 2 videos they've produced so far. They're just straight interview format,
Yeah.
question and answer to a specialist, let's call it. I don't know whether they have adopted that as a standard. I would suspect that it's an evolving thing as they become more experienced.
Hopefully it would be, it develop, depending on what the topic is, that have an adequate or appropriate, approach and delivery. So
Yeah.
it might not be the same for all. Mark?
And I agree with you, and like it should be, the branding should be kind of a municipal thing, but I think we should toot our own horn a bit, like, it'd be nice to increase our kind of, the way, just get our name out there. I know, I still run into people who are like, you sit on the environment committee, we have an environment committee, and some people like, I've looked into it and I'm like, wow, that's great, it's good to see, it'd be nice to advertise yourself a little bit. By no means do I think we should be like usurping the municipality, because it is a municipal thing. But let's not be afraid to toot our own horn.
And so we've got to be in the credits at least.
Or the opening shot could be us.
Yeah.
Remember to shave it.
Yeah.
So,
So I'm just reading this, I didn't realize,
Yeah.
this is great, sorry. I was reading the revised, but I didn't read that Laura, Maureen, and Denise did. Oh, okay. Okay, so this gets to spending CARIP as well. Okay, that's where you were going earlier.
This is one.
$325 a film though is, for $325 per film is a pretty frugal budget.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about $35 an hour for their editor. Right, was that right?
That's what it says.
Yeah,
Oh,
but to write up like a 20-minute video
yeah.
could take up to 10 hours for somebody to log it up and to really make it line up.
Yeah.
So there's probably a fair amount of pro bono time here if they're doing it that way.
Yes,
Yeah.
So, sorry, but just to clarify that, so we're like, most of Bowen in Transition would be pro bono time, but we need a technical person
That's right.
who.
Yeah.
Who puts it together and makes sure that it
Yeah.
runs its standard,
Okay.
and credits and,
Yeah.
all those things.
All right, so we're recommending $2,000. $2,000 from CARIP, support development 6 videos.
So it kind of adds up to about the same, right? It's about $2,000 for the 6 videos, and,
No. No, isn't there, but there's a second $2,000 recommendation here.
Yeah.
So it's 4,024.
So it looks like it's an ask of 4,000. And so,
Oh, that was for Julie.
yeah, that was Julie,
Yeah.
that wasn't, that had nothing to do with this.
okay,
So it's a separate.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So
So,
to be clear then, where it says we further recommend,
Mhm.
and it
That's-
mentions Bowen Agricultural Alliance and Food Solomon Group,
Received 2,000.
that $2,000 is in addition to the other $2,000. It's still less than the
And nothing to do,
4,015.
And, yeah, separate things, so we should discuss them
But
separately.
this doesn't have to happen today,
Yeah,
right?
so,
But the first one though, we want the $2,000 to Bowen in transition. Do we want to make that recommendation today?
he was recommending that and recommending a method of how to approach the content that was.
Yeah.
so, my thoughts for prudence here would be to find out if, and I don't think this first one is an issue, if Bowen in Transition is comfortable with co-branding with Bowen Municipality. I don't think that's an issue, but I think we should just make sure that that's okay.
Their proposal.
Yeah.
It's their proposal.
Yeah, it comes from their document.
Yeah, but what they want to do is co-brand with
ECA, I see.
ECAC
Yeah.
rather than
From the,
BIM, and so I think it's just a clarification that, you know, make sure that everybody's on the same page on this. And then my second question is, we would, you know, we would like to know what their method of developing a video is, so that we know where we can fit in. And then with that knowledge and and we're comfortable with it, I think the next step is approve or recommend the $2,000 expenditure. But,
I agree with both of your points. I think I'd like to have a conversation with them.
Yeah.
That talks about, raise both points, but particularly spend some time on how they produce it. And then, since it's being co-branded with them, like, I think this is really important and needs to be really well done.
Yeah.
Like, I'm thinking of, in our next item, which is the climate action stuff, I think there's a job for Bowen in Transition in that work. Like, for instance, heat pumps, buying and installing heat pumps. Like, I'd like to see them storyboard something like that. Okay, how are you gonna do it? And I don't want, certainly I wouldn't want to just interviews, just looking at somebody's talking face. No, it's gotta be better than that. We need images, diagrams,
Yeah.
something to hold people's attention, and I agree with your note here, less than 20 minutes. Like, most people can't watch things more than about 5 or 6. I can't. So, you know, and you should be able to, like, you need to do something at home. What do? You Google, and you look at a YouTube video that says how to plant a dahlia, or whatever.
Yeah.
And it takes you 2 minutes, and then you become an expert. And that's kind of how everybody does stuff. And that's what this should be like. It should be that kind of thing. It should be whatever. Heat pump, 7 or 8 minutes. Yeah, we want Bob and we want Colin, because they've just done one. But it should have Greg as well, and it should have, you know, details. What about grants? What about, and all that kind of stuff. Like, it's,
And even if it's if there's too much information for that 10 to 20 minute video, it can be part A and B.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
but it shouldn't be a big lump.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe like a 1 to 2 minute, like, this is what it's all about, kind of a bite-sized video, and then for more information,
Yeah.
watch the 10-minute video.
Like a
Kind
trailer,
of
like a
thing.
trailer.
Like a trailer.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a good
Yeah.
idea.
But it's like, people will watch it for a
Yeah.
minute.
Yeah.
I'll commit to a minute. But 10, probably not.
Yeah.
Not unless you're really ready to do it.
Unless I'm actually gonna, yeah.
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 No, that's a great
Right.
Mm-hmm. So, two points. One of the things that I noticed in the possible subjects that I think is missing is how to reduce your dependence on plastics. Just throw that out there.
Yeah.
Oh, this is a subject.
Yeah, in terms of subjects.
Yeah.
And my second point, I don't want to be a downer. This is a great idea. Let's and if I missed something from when I left with the solar panel discussion, so the CARIP funds have kind of been going towards the solar panels on the pipeline.
Yeah.
So that's the project we've already got in the works.
Yep.
So, yeah,
Yeah,
and that's the thing, I mean, I understand the price tag for that is way too much.
We're trying to get rid of the power pole. If we can get rid of the power pole, then it,
Right, I just wouldn't
think-
wanna see the solar panels derailed. I
yeah.
mean, I think that's important,
I think,
and I'm not trying to derail this.
Yeah.
Good point.
I think that he's making a really good point, because I think they're counting on this money. I think that they've assumed that they're getting it for the solar panels, or like that was assumed last year. that
And that's
this
why it was
money.
carried over, so.
Yeah.
Wow.
yeah. So,
And I was just gonna say, like, I thought these other things were just like a couple $100 each kind of thing, like I didn't know it was all of the CARIP money, and I maybe would have brought that up sooner, but,
Yeah.
I just didn't quite realize. So,
There's another,
we just need to discuss it, I think.
yes, there's also another idea, if we don't have CARIP money to put towards that, there are programs, simple enough, that you could create a video that's of standard, that can be done very, very easily, just like I have one. It's like you want to do a 5-minute video, and you can do as many as you want. It's a 1-year fee. It's like $100, and you get everything lines up. Everything's already done. It's a template, really. So if they wanted to do it, but we couldn't offer them any support, we could find other ways of, finding other means to support them and say that, we don't want to just leave them cold, but might make other recommendations that they can use if they don't have the funds. Just
And I'm totally like support, like,
Yeah.
this is great, let's
Yeah.
go with this. And I'm not saying like, let's
Yeah,
not
I just know
spend
that
the
there are
money on it,
cheaper
but.
ways to do it. If you
Yeah.
really want to do a standard, but you don't have the money, this is a really good approach.
Yeah. Some information, yeah.
Or,
so,
one other suggestion would just be, why don't they just make like 3 videos this year, and then, 3 more next year?
Could they apply for the community grants? Because are they eligible?
No, because they're not registered. Oh, no, there wasn't one clause that they could be, yes.
Yeah,
They could be.
yeah, they could partner too
And
with,
a whack line from them.
yeah, they could partner too with,
Yeah.
I don't know,
Yeah.
somebody.
If they had a support, if they had a sponsor.
Yeah.
so you will probably find out that I'm not the best money guy on the planet. So I need to know, what's the pot for CARIP that's available, and aren't we committed to spending it on the solar panels? Like, do we have any money of this size, the 2,000 to give?
So the 2018 funds are around 4,000.
Yeah.
2017 funds are also around 4,000.
Yeah.
The 2017 funds, we have already committed to the solar panels. There was an assumption, I think,
Yeah.
maybe from staff members, that the 2018 funds would also be contributed to that, but it's really up to us to make a recommendation as to what we would like to.
And I think, my thought is let's finish one project before we commit to another one. So I think what we might have to tell Bowen in Transition is that this year the money's spent, so maybe there's other ways we can support them, as Denise has said, and that we'd like to talk to them and work, have another meeting with Bowen in Transition to talk about those things that we were talking about, like the branding option with the municipality, etc., and the talk about process. How do they do their develop their videos, and how can we work with them on that? So
I agree with that approach, and I agree with the idea that completing an actual working hardware type of project that's already really got some momentum should be receiving the priority. The information stuff is really important too, but it's, as it turns out, it's a mix and line.
Yeah.
That's the way I see it.
And that we'd really like to talk to them about next year's budget. And
So, yeah, we'd be careful with that discussion, because if it's $16,000,
yeah,
the CARIP money, if that's the road we're going down and just letting it accrue at this current
yeah,
rate.
don't build up expectations.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully it doesn't take that long to get the solar panels and the co-op works.
Yeah, so we need to get the new estimate. We need to figure out if we actually do need a power pole, or are there alternatives, and all that sort of stuff. And then what it might cost to buy the panels itself through the co-op, so on.
So,
We could also explore
We-
more funding options. I
True.
mean,
yeah.
I don't think anyone's looked at it probably since last year, so maybe
Right.
there's, new pools become available all the time, especially for things like solar panels. So
Yeah. Yeah,
we'll
probably.
keep up for that.
So do we need to have a response to Bowen and Transition in the near timeline?
Well, I think they were asking for a response from us because we were bringing it up tonight, but I
Yeah.
don't know what their timeline's like, but.
So shall we pick two members to well, maybe the subcommittee to write a response based on what we've been discussing?
We can give it to Maureen, or we can go directly, however you wish.
Do you have a recommendation for that the way to proceed?
Well, I think that it's pretty basic and pretty simple. We can just, write this up and send it to David and let him know that where we're at. If you'd like, we can, exactly as you said.
Does that sound good to the rest of the group?
Yeah, maybe.
Circulated first?
Yeah.
Well, so I was gonna say, I don't want to get their hopes up, but I also don't want to shoot them down
Yeah.
either,
Yeah.
because we're not really sure, right? So.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So, but what he's asking is that, just this year the money's spent, so that's not gonna happen, so they can't consider that.
yeah.
And that's the one thing that they need to know, if they're considering money from us. Is that true?
Well, have we really decided that the CARIP funds are going towards the solar panels, or is that's what I mean?
Yeah,
I think we're
I
gonna discuss
think-
it again next
yeah.
meeting, once we get the rest of the information, so.
yeah, yeah.
And-
So
and when
maybe
Maureen's
we
here
have to
too.
put them off, saying,
Okay.
we're finding, we need more information about another project that we're committed to, and we'll have to get some more information before we know if there's going to be funds available.
Okay.
Just gonna ask the staff, in terms of procedure here, like, we don't have a recommendation, so, I mean, I was gonna make a motion or something, but there's no
We
no
don't
need-
have to.
don't have to have a
That's-
motion.
I don't feel like there's
So
enough
it's
time
really-
sensitivity,
Yeah,
and this is an ongoing discussion amongst the committee members.
yeah, so to continue the discussion then, yeah,
Yeah.
recognizing that.
There's been no
as Will said-
referral from council or staff,
There's-
it needs to be executed on a deadline,
Right,
right?
yeah, so we've got another project, we're not quite sure what the final cost will be, but it's probably going to take at least,
So so I mean, you could make a resolution like that, just an internal resolution, just.
Because we don't want to keep them waiting.
Say
I
we're
mean,
agree on that.
that's a valid point.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I don't want us to give the impression that we don't support it. I mean,
Exactly.
we certainly do support it, but
Exactly.
it's just, let's,
So.
We should
showing
be-
our
so I'm gonna make a
support-
recommendation.
Okay,
Okay, that, first of all, I guess I'll have 3 points, maybe I'll have 4, let's see.
woo,
First
Don't
one
be
is that we appreciate the work that Bowen and Transition has done, and we like the idea of these videos. That
Great.
it could be very useful for engaging the public, so that's point 1. Point 2 is we'd love to meet with them when the time is possible to go over, their production approaches, potential costs, and how they storyboard things and so on. In other words, to get a sense of how they would do their work and what the product would look like. But the third, and maybe this should be number 2, is the budget issue. Is we have, right now, we have, what can I call it, an interim commitment to fund solar panels on the bike barn. But we're still getting costs sorted out for that. And so it's unclear whether we'll have any additional funds in this year.
Yeah.
We don't know that yet. It's rather doubtful. No, it's doubtful. It's unclear, but doubtful that we'd have any additional funds to spend this year because of this, interim commitment to this other project.
Yep.
Something like that.
Yep.
Or maybe we're still researching other funding options.
Yes, that's right. Yep. And we're looking at other funding options, but it's too early to say we'd have additional money, and I don't want to say it's not hope. Don't be hopeful.
Yeah.
We need to have some words to that effect.
Yeah.
That at the way the budget looks right now, there probably won't be additional funds. But we're looking at what some of the options are in terms of the project that we've already made a tentative commitment to. So it's a lot of words.
Yeah.
So if we make this motion, then it can be part of the letter or the
Yep.
note that goes to them or something like that. That says, like, we dig your project, but sort of thing.
So Steph got all of that.
Fabulous stuff. You're incredible.
And as it was coming in, she edited it to be even more eloquent than
Excellent.
It's
There
true.
we go.
What do you got, Steph?
I just like what you said, but worse. I feel like it's something worse on the nose. That the committee appreciate the work that Bowen and Transition has done and like the ideas of these videos. We would love to meet regarding production approaches, potential costs, and what the product would look like. But current interim commitment is to fund solar panels on the bike barn, but still waiting for costs, so it is unclear, but doubtful whether there'll be remaining funds to allocate to the Bowen and Transition for this video project
this year.
Yeah, this year.
this year.
This year. Bingo.
And then there's another.
I've been at this table for 11 hours.
Oh, you're doing magnificent.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Fantastic. There's the 4th point, looking for other sources.
Oh, okay. The municipality is. But, okay.
Maybe, but still waiting for costs. And we're, after the costs. We're still waiting for costs and are exploring other sources of revenue.
Oh, okay.
Maybe couple of those two things.
What you got, Steph?
Nothing much better than the other one. Can I just work on it and maybe send it around?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I think that's probably best.
Thank you.
Because you know what we're trying to say.
I think so.
Yeah.
Excellent. Any more on the Bowen and Transition? All right,
No, not right now.
okay. And,
So we're gonna vote on that in principle then?
yeah,
Okay.
all in favor of the gist of that?
Nice, I love it.
Yes. And we realize that Steph will put her magic into it. It will be stunningly eloquent, and we will have a look at it and make any suggestions that will make it even more brilliant. All right, the Climate Emergency Subcommittee, and I could take the the weight off of Jeff and Ellen's shoulders and just, and talk about it, or, and I'm very willing to step back and let you guys talk about it.
Speaking personally and proudly for Jeff, I gladly accept your offer.
All right, so, the subcommittee met on last weekend
Yes.
I think so.
and put together a set of recommendations that are in the package.
Page 37 or 46. 37 to 39.
37, yep. So, this is, it's based on what Islands Trust and Metro Vancouver have done with their declaration of climate emergency. And it has on the last 2 pages the big moves that we recommend. And we actually surpassed Islands Trust and Metro Vancouver in the number of big moves that we're recommending. But they're all great big moves, and I'm sure that when their staff see these, they will copy them. We're just, would you like to just read it? What I'd like to do is get approval of this after review and amendments if needed, so that we can pass this on to council, and also I can pass this information on to the kids of Bowen that did the climate strike, to let them know that some of the old folks are listening to them and doing something about it.
So I've got a few edits.
Okay?
I'm going to suggest if every, so on the first page.
Yep.
Number 2, I don't like the words, like I hate using the word mitigation because no one knows what it means.
Yep.
So instead, highlights greenhouse gas reduction and climate change adaptation policies in the island plan. 'Cause that's greenhouse gas reduction, like those are the 2 things, cut emissions and adapt to the changes that are coming regardless.
True. Right. Direct, clear.
That's greenhouse gas
Reduction
reduction?
and climate change adaptation. Or you could say adaptation to the changing climate, if you want to just use vernacular or simple words.
Dropping the word policies?
No, keep policies, I'm sorry. Yeah, keep policies, yeah.
And in the island plan.
Yeah.
Okay?
And then the other one is number 6.
Yep.
I'm worried about that. And I direct staff to report back to BIM Council on measures and land use planning actions that the municipality can. Staff are busy. I don't think we can ask them to do more stuff. We can come up with ideas, recommend to staff, and then staff can say, we can't do that, or yeah, it's a good idea, or whatever.
Yeah.
But
So,
I don't
just
wanna-
kill that one.
I'd rather kill that one, if
Yep.
people are okay with that.
Yep.
I mean, Carla,
I have to say I disagree.
okay.
And just one voice from it, but
Yeah.
this is, I think, what local government should be doing, is reductions in the carbon pollution in corporate operations, and taking measures on climate change reductions. I mean, I understand staff is busy, it's a valid argument, but, I mean, this is a big part of the argument that's going on all over the globe, is that we have to move this stuff to the forefront.
Yeah.
This is my take.
Could we make it less nasty by saying instead of direct staff, encourage staff? Or is that a weasel word?
We also have the energy and emissions plan, which is being, people are doing stuff.
True.
Yeah.
It's not that we're just like, "Well, I don't want to do
Yeah.
it." Like
Yeah,
we
no,
are
for
doing
sure,
stuff,
For sure.
and we have that as guidance
Yeah.
to follow, and we will have to do another one probably next year.
Yeah.
So
So this
that's
is
kind
really
of
redundant.
that really, is
Yeah.
that's kind of what
Good
what I'm
Okay.
thinking.
Yeah.
So, okay, I suggest we put a wooden stake through this one.
And also thinking of council members looking at it, and they would probably say exactly what
Yeah,
Carl was just saying, yeah.
okay.
Okay.
Anything else, David?
Yes, this is an obvious one.
Yeah.
In 10, the 7 big moves, not 6.
Where is that?
Top of the next
Oh,
page.
yeah, there we go.
Yeah. And back to sort of number 6, like number 7 is nice. Direct staff to help guide and support community efforts to reduce. It's softer, and it's positive.
I was just reading.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, these are great, but more and more I don't know, is plastics part of climate change?
No,
No. That is shut on?
no, we all eat
Yeah.
1,000 pieces of plastic a year.
And that's what I just heard today.
I got
It's on my mind.
Males more than females.
Really? Oh, I didn't hear that part.
They didn't give the details.
It's because we eat more.
Oh,
It's just saying.
or eat worse.
But if we drink water out of water bottles, you're ingesting more plastic.
Yeah.
We just took 500.
Yeah, just how long have I been using this and feeling good about it?
Yeah. I have a metal water bottle, but I bet you I'm just ingesting more metallic part of this, so.
Yeah.
Do we need to go through these in any more detail, or should I ask people to, on a deadline of, say, 5 days, review this and send back any revisions they'd like to see, or?
No, that's fair.
Is it possible we could be happy with it tonight, though? Or is there more review?
I haven't seen anything that's, I would change. I mean, I haven't gone over the content of but it's looking for like that.
I think that, yeah, I know that the people that were on the subcommittee have gone through this in fairly heavy detail. Mind you, Editor David has found some good changes to make, which is great. I just would like to make sure that it's as strong as it can be, but, Mark?
Okay, so big move number 5.
yeah.
BIM works with Metro Vancouver in the progress to develop an integrated online system that will process all organic waste produced on the island into soil. So that would preclude the notion of the bioreactor turning to energy. No. Okay.
Don't,
No.
no, and this is general enough that nobody's gonna say, oh, this isn't soil, this is, good
enough.
stuff.
Good enough.
Yeah.
So, would people like to spend some more time right here and now, or shall we,
I can speak to bits of it if people want to. I mean, 4 of them are on transportation, and that's because almost all Bowen's emissions, 80% of our emissions are from transportation, so transportation's a critical one. The other one, the adaptation is all around carbon storage and getting rid of logging and conservation development and things like that to try to protect our forests so that they can look after themselves as well as they can in a changing climate and to help deal with issues around fire. The processing organics on island is actually a transportation issue as well, because they're already being turned into soil, but it's at Pemberton. So it'd be nice to do it on the island, and so that I would no longer be buying compost from the mainland. I'd be able to get it here on Bowen. So this transportation in two ways would be reduced. The big move number 6, energy consumption. This is a really interesting one, because this is the one that people can get involved in more, like make your house better, and it makes your house more comfortable and cost less to heat it, and it's also jobs, because if we're going to have people, like I talked to Greg Cormier, about heat pumps, because my house is cold, and he says, step 1, airtight. Step 2, more insulation. Step 3, heat pumps. Like, do the other 2 first. So basically, to make our homes, reduce emissions from our homes, it's re-insulation, airtight, and it's jobs for people on Bowen to do that work. So.
And it just occurred to me too that this is these big moves are titles for videos.
Yeah, I agree.
Bowen and Transition.
I agree. Yeah, I was thinking of Bowen and Transition, particularly with Big Move 6. We need people to help, because I was thinking heat pumps. So I went to the province and looked at these things for heat pumps. I got lost in no time. It was too complicated for me, and I'm reasonably smart, and I know about heat pumps. And so if it's too complicated for me, it's too complicated for most people.
Yeah.
And so we need people who are experts to help. And it could be Bowen in Transition. Develops, some expertise, go around and offer a service to help people set it up, work your way through the various funds that are available, and what kind of heat pump do you need, and where is it, and is it water, and so on, all that kind of stuff that I got lost trying to figure out.
Any more comments, David?
So big move number 1 is zero emissions ferry.
Yeah.
That should be a standalone one. But what about zero emissions cars and scooters and bikes and?
It's a good question.
Yeah. Excellent.
The tricky part about that is that that's people's own decisions, like to get an electric car. We're building the path so that people can, that's part of this active transportation. We're putting in charging station in the cove. Oh, did I tell everybody about that? Oh, that happened. Another council update. Yeah. So the charging station, we will have a charging station. It'll be, the library parking lot, the one on this side of the library. And then if you're in that parking lot and you're looking towards the Heron Nest, it's corner on the left, the first corner on the left. In other words, the very first, right off the road, high visibility spot. Yeah.
Is it just one?
Just one. It's one for now. Yeah, that's the first one. There's a telephone pole right there, so they can tie it in quite nicely.
And that is so important.
Yeah.
A, for tourists who want to come
Exactly.
down, but
That's
B, for people like me who rent, and I can't put a charging station in my home.
Excellent.
So
Yeah.
it's a big step.
So to be clear, a
Yeah.
charging station, basically just one car can be there at a time,
Yes.
but it will take a half hour and it's done, is that the idea?
Yeah.
So it's a step 2.
It's a stage 2. or
Stage
whatever they're
2.
called.
So if
Phase 2 or whatever.
most of the cars, the research I've been doing for a stage 2, if you have an empty battery, you're looking at like a couple of hours. And I noticed at the council meeting, because I watched it, because I heard it was the charging station, because it's a 3-hour parking spot.
Yeah.
So that kind of works everything out.
Yeah.
And so for people, and my thought was, well, I live here, I live like right by, so I could go down at like 11 o'clock at night or whatever and plug my car in. So, but yeah, because I think the intent is mainly to encourage people who are driving and give them, like people might be thinking, well, I have nowhere to charge my car at the island, so I'm not gonna go. So.
Yeah. It's for
When I read
tourists,
the council-
visitors.
Yeah, when I read the council update, I was figuring, is it just gonna be for one car or maybe for 2 cars off of one supply?
One car for now.
Okay.
One car for now. Yeah.
So, I think Mark's question is still a good one, because the question about, what about encouraging electric vehicles and that kind of thing? Because we're in Big Move 6, we're encouraging and enabling homeowners to upgrade their home. And so it seems logical that it would fit, you know, a parallel would be to encourage and enable people to move to electric based transportation. And we're already doing part of that with the solar panels for the
Bike park.
the bike barn. So, is it some, and I think it's almost, oh God, we're gonna have another, we're gonna go up to 8.
Well, or, this is my thinking was going that way too, is it one of these where it can be blended into move 3?
So is an active transportation more about like a physical powered, like a human powered?
It is, yeah.
But
I see.
I mean, I think the big moves, I mean, I think it's too low level to have its own big move. It might be a medium move, so, but I think it would fall into big move 6 pretty well. It's all part of reducing your overall energy consumption. I mean that's, and
oh, geez, yeah,
Blended into 6.
Yeah, blended into 6.
Yes. yeah, and so, you
although
know,
6, it looks like it's kind of,
It is.
it's focused on homes.
well, I think we just, in the title, we removed from homes at the end of the sentence.
And then it's not about homes.
It's so different though.
Yeah.
It is.
Like, I agree, it's the
Yeah.
same. I was thinking of trying to tie it into one, because zero emissions ferries, zero emission transportation.
See, I thought of that, but
Yeah,
I think that should be a
That's
that's
standalone.
big, man.
Yeah.
I would leave that as that's
Yeah.
the biggest move.
It's the big umbilical cord.
yeah. I think you're right, I think we need one. I could try working one and send it around and see if I can tie it in.
Sure.
I mean, like, to reduce transportation emissions, there are 4 things. There are only 4 things. One is better fuels, and the province and the feds are working on that, by lower carbon fuels. The next is better cars, so zero emission or hybrids or whatever. The next is land use planning, so people don't have to move around as much. And the next is providing alternatives, like buses and active transportation. Those are the 4 things.
Yep.
And so,
Okay, so let's,
I'll work on it, or I'll try, like, I'm worried about 8, because then they started to be medium moves rather than big moves.
And the more it kind of waters it down, the more you have.
Exactly.
yeah,
I go with what he's saying around number 3. I think that one could be transformed just slightly, shift the title a little bit, and then you can slip it in, because it's very friendly to have a station in the cove, usable, it's friendly, it is friendly.
Yeah.
So it could just be added there maybe, perhaps, as an
Yeah,
extra.
well, I mean, there are other things we can do. Like, for instance, we could have, just like you've got lanes on the highways for people who are car sharing, and, you know, you could have a zero emission vehicle lane where people can get on the ferry automatically. Like, that would create a fuss, and if we tried doing that right now, because only a handful of people have electric cars, well, one. And that, you know, down the road, you could do things like that, like to have a lane where you get automatically on the boat if you've got a zero emission vehicle or something like that. So there are a array of things
That's a good one.
that could be done.
yeah, and, you know, the other parts of this are too, if there is the solar co-op, why wouldn't one of the things that they would be group buying would be electric bicycles and electric scooters? You know, to make it so that you could purchase one at a discount. But anyway, I'm going to leave this to David
Okay,
to,
I'll work on it.
How about just active and electric transportation,
Yeah.
friendly community?
Mhm.
See, again, and I was thinking about that, I would almost like 3 to stay, just about the active transportation. I keep coming back to 6 and thinking it's about like homes, but instead of making it about homes and buildings, make it about people.
Yeah.
Like how to assist
Yeah.
people to reduce energy consumption and emissions. You know, and then in
Yeah.
the description, it's,
In that sense, Mark.
yeah,
right.
Yeah.
But then again, you guys wanted to focus on homes and buildings, so I don't know how you feel about that. I'm just throwing it
Yeah,
out.
well, let's put the heavyweight on Editor David,
Okay.
and he's heard some good ideas here
Yeah.
for different options to approach it. And in the past, you've even tried a couple of different options
Yeah.
and said, choose one. So whatever you, I think you've got a lot of the knowledge and expertise on this too, David.
Okay. What does everybody think of 8? Is it too bad to have 8 big, or do we say, instead of it being 8 big moves, do we say 8 moves, or whatever? Do we make it 8, or is it 8 too many? And is this too small? It is kind of small,
I think,
because there's not a heck of a lot that the municipality can do.
I think that we don't want to make it too big. I think there's that overload issue.
Yeah.
Oh, there's
I'm already
8
worried
moves,
about
9
that.
moves,
Yeah.
10 commandments. They're gonna only handle 3.
Okay, I'll find something.
Okay,
Good, thanks.
almost
Um,
fixed that.
I'm
In
so
the,
sorry.
No, that's understood.
It's just like
What you got,
the
Carl?
marathon day today.
Oh, yeah.
I actually have that recommendation, you guys wanna look at it?
Sure.
Okay. David? Council? That's from before.
Oh, sorry. Oh, this is the, oh, well done. Would like to explore engaging in the proposed collaboration. Like, we're not gonna say we're definitely gonna do it, I'd like to kind of figure it out a little bit. I think that was kind of what Will was saying.
Yeah.
Explore engagement.
Engaging in seems.
Okay.
Okay, that seems good.
Nice job.
It's awkward when
Yeah.
it's a resolution to all these numbers.
Okay, so I'll move that.
Okay.
We already voted on it.
We already
We voted on the gist of it,
All in favor?
but
Well
no,
done. We already voted on it.
good job.
Oh, again.
Steph, if you wanted to write the CARIP grant is to fund solar panels, just so you don't say funds is to fund.
Thank you, I'm looking for,
This is the fun.
funds is the funds.
I know it was probably bothering you.
It was really bothering.
Okay, well done, thanks.
Okay, thank you,
Yeah.
sorry.
Good ESP.
Okay. New business. And that is Denise.
That would be the email that I sent you.
Yep.
Oh, I printed that.
Oh my gosh, that's good.
She's amazing.
She's so good.
So what is this, Denise?
I received this email, I believe it was from EMBC, and it had to do with.
From who, sorry? From
EMBC.
Oh, Emergency Management,
Yeah.
okay.
But it came, I'm sure it came through the EPAC, and it was a request to whether or not our community would be
Oh, I saw
interested.
that. That was very good. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I saw that.
I
An
like it.
expression of interest around the Aboriginal lands and any committees we want to create. I can't remember exactly the way it went.
Maybe I'm thinking of a different thing.
Well, she's gonna get it, so
Okay.
my
I thought it was
interpretation.
a fire one.
No, this is not fire.
Oh, okay.
No, this is actually to create, as I understand,
The community climate preparedness
yeah,
workshop.
Yeah.
community
Oh,
climate
yeah.
To host
preparedness.
one.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Right, no, right, yeah, I thought that was good.
So I just had a few thoughts, but I'm, sort of going like, yes, would we like to do that?
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, who was proposing it? I forget. The province. Was it the
Yes.
province?
The Fraser Basin.
Oh, Fraser Basin
Yeah.
Council. Oh, right.
So it's a 5-hour, do you want me to just read it?
Yes.
Yeah.
5-hour climate preparedness workshops in Indigenous and rural communities with less than 10,000 people throughout BC in 2019-2020. So we can fill out this form as an expression of interest. We need to do it by Monday, June 24th. And they'll be in touch with those who are shortlisted. So I think I looked at the form and it was, the workshops are funded by Natural Resources Canada and the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change, BC Ministry of Environment and Climate Change Strategy.
So the deadline
So-
is the 24th, so we need to make a
It's-
decision.
The 24th of June, the other thing too though is that what questions in the survey include, and I didn't, because I looked at this really
Oh,
quickly,
that's
because I was like, oh, whatever, I would just
Yeah.
fill this out. Like, it's just a, you know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things, like, is it just a name and address kind of thing? But this seems a little bit more involved, so it would take some work. It's like a grant application, I think.
How many
Do you want me to
questions?
read this out? Because I don't think it'll be in the email then.
Yeah,
But
sure.
Steph, you could put it on, it was a link in there. So the questions in the survey include, what types of concerns do you have about future changes in climate will affect your community?
I remember seeing this, actually, yeah.
How would a community climate preparedness workshop help achieve your community's climate change adaptation goals? Max 150 words. What type of information is your community hoping to get out of the community climate preparedness workshop, and how will this information be used? Which other organizations would you like to involve in this workshop? How has your community been involved in climate change adaptation or climate preparedness to date?
Hmm. Yeah, there's lots,
Yeah,
right?
so there's more.
There's more?
Has your community applied for climate change adaptation funding? If so, was the application successful? And they asked about partnerships as well. If we've done any partnerships for adaptation initiatives.
Well, I think we'd be the fact that we're an island and all of our water comes from here and it's getting drier and drier, our trees are dying. We can really we need, one thing we really need to understand is what is our capacity in terms of potable water on our island? We don't know, and that's one of the things that you guys are going to sort of investigate, but that's something we really could really do with getting good scientific information on. How much water do we have? And then what are the options for storing it? Like, should we have a bylaw where every new house from now on has water storage, a cistern? Like, I think so, but anyway, yeah, for any gardening needs, but also for fire protection. So there's a whole lot about fire and water, I think, that we could really talk about. We also had, in terms of storm damage last year, like we had that dock damage down there, and we had 2 or 3 culverts blown out costing about $900,000. And so, the municipality's thinking, oh, what kind of funds are we gonna have sitting at home, sitting in our reserve for climate damage every year? So we need to get a better sense of that.
I feel we can also look at food sovereignty in certain issues that we were looking at the little talk the other night.
Oh, yeah.
There's some good pieces that could come in, just ideas, but,
Yeah, so people working on food.
yeah.
So it just needs someone would have to do it, that's the trouble. You have to write all that stuff out, 150 words. 150 words takes time, because you have to think really carefully.
Well, I'd really like to propose it if anybody wants to work on it with me. I need something a little bit more savvy in some ways, but I'd be certainly up for working remotely.
Ellen and Jeff, I was gonna ask.
What is the, I'm unclear what needs to be done in order to.
Fill in the questionnaire.
The filling question.
Yeah, just 150 words, 150 words, 150 words.
Oh, we're done.
Yeah? Okay, thanks.
Okay, I'll work on it with Jeff.
Thank you.
So we've got a subcommittee of 3.
Okay, but we need to, it's council that would have to do this. So we need a recommendation that council do it, and that will help by providing a draft of the questionnaire. Is that what you think, Carla?
I don't think it needs to go to council.
No?
No, I think you should just draft it all up and you can send it to me and I'll fill out the survey.
Yeah, but,
It's just an application.
yeah,
Yeah, but,
but BIM is applying.
oh,
No?
well, I apply for stuff all the time.
Do you?
I just think it's,
Yeah.
Well, it's not matching funds. Usually
it's,
matching
yeah,
funds
I don't
is
think
what-
it costs anything and,
No.
I just think that because it's, June 24th and it's already, like, it-
Right, and there's a council meeting on Monday, so it's already not on that agenda.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
next agenda after that is, I don't know, what's Monday, about the 10th or something like that?
Next one's the 24th.
Yeah, so the next one, you're right.
But if David's getting his spidey senses, might want to touch base.
what's that? Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, just to touch base, and I also think that, I can think of 2 councillors that I would expect would want to go. 3 councillors maybe.
Yeah.
And so.
But they'll come here, won't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll come
Yeah, I
here.
think
Yeah.
they'll
Yeah.
come here, we'll,
Yeah, I'll
we'll
go
host
to
a
it,
workshop.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I would hope members of this committee would
Oh, yeah.
go if it fits their schedules.
Fraser Basin Council is really good.
Mhm.
So, I guess we're committed to, we've got a committee of 3. Carla's gonna just check in with, council about, to check about David's spidey senses. Do we need to, involve them?
We could make a recommendation if you want to, and then, within that, we could ask council, what, like, we could include a question from here, say like what their priorities might be in terms of a climate preparedness workshop, if they wanted to have any kind of a discussion, do you think?
I'm
that-
not sure, I'm stuck on this, I'm not quite sure how to proceed. 'Cause we need to keep council, and Kathy to know that we're doing this.
Okay.
But we're doing it
Yeah.
on their behalf, because there's no time for it to
Yeah.
go to council,
Yeah.
and you know.
Well, and the worst thing that happens is if they don't like it, they just say no.
There's enough, I think there's enough time if they bring it to the next meeting, and as long as everyone is still actually working on it at the same time before that we get their approval, then
Yeah.
I think there's
Yeah.
plenty
Well,
of
so
time.
the council meeting's on the 24th,
Yeah, and the
Oh, it's
and the
on the
deadline is,
24th?
the deadline is the
Oh, it's
24th?
the 24th?
Or the
No,
24th.
for this is the 24th, isn't it?
No, but we're talking
Is
about
that the
council meetings
council?
before the 24th.
The deadline is
Oh, the deadline's gone.
June 24th, same as council day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So.
That's the next council, it's 24th.
Oh, I see.
They're gonna, so if we get shortlisted, they will contact us.
right.
I think it's okay to apply.
Okay, I'll send a note to Gary.
Okay,
It's just an application. To me, it's like applying for a grant. I don't ask anyone if I can apply for a grant
Okay.
and just hope I get money and then say, I
Hey,
got money.
guess what? I got money.
Yeah.
But like Maureen
It's cool
did
that we do
have
this.
conversations, and she asked
You
council.
know.
Well, that's because we're seeing for them.
Yeah, I mean, we're not
But-
spending any money, we're.
We don't, because we don't have
we're
to
doing the
accept
work. No,
Yeah.
the workshop. I mean, they're,
okay.
Yep.
I mean, there's no harm in filling out the having the application ready, and then if there's pushback, then it just doesn't happen. We should have our ducks in a row going.
Yeah.
I guess it's more that we don't internally want any surprises, but there's no downside from the outside, right?
Well, if the minutes just say you're applying, you'll be doing the subcommittee meeting application, that's in the minutes, and these minutes will go in the
Oh, yeah.
January 20th.
So, no, we'll just work on this. I'm gonna send a note to Gary and Kathy tomorrow,
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
saying, you know, we have to be done by the 24th. So, no time for council approval. Here's what we're doing. Are you all okay with this? And it's, you know, a minimum of staff time. Carla will need help a little bit, but, you know, not a heck of a lot. Yeah. I mean, for some questions I don't know. Have we applied for any adaptation grants? I have no idea.
Sorry, I don't have it up there. Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah.
There's
Maybe
14
some Fire
questions
Smart or something
in
like
the
that.
survey, and they only show you like 7 of them, so it's a little bit of a surprise.
Oh, really?
That's probably those are
Yeah.
probably all the longer ones.
Okay.
though.
All
I
right.
think if you go to the end, there's an option to see the big survey.
No, I've already
Oh.
tried. Oh wait,
Okay.
load and there's.
Could you, somebody just email it to me now so I've got a fresh version? So that I'll forward it to them tomorrow. Okay, done.
Okay,
What is the next step on the venue? So aside from your notification, David, of
Find some time when the three of us can get together and we'll sit down
we'll
and,
just sit down and work out the three of us.
yeah,
Do you
we'll
want
just
to
sit
do a
down.
poll?
Yeah.
What's
Do
that?
you want a little doodle poll, or?
Sure.
Sounds good.
I don't have a lot of time, unfortunately.
So,
But-
do you have a preference, evenings, day,
Okay.
day? Okay. Are you
But,
good
well,
with
Jeff
that?
works, so,
I work part-time in town, part-time at home, so
Okay,
daytime could work.
okay.
so which one of you is gonna do the doodle poll?
not me.
I've never done one, but I'll figure it out.
Yep.
I'm kind of like that.
Yep.
I'll send
It's,
it.
it's stupid.
I could do it, so anybody can,
Oh.
so.
Yeah.
All right, so, that's end of new business. Well done, everybody. And then, information items,
So the island plan will always be linked on your agendas in order to keep us connected
focused.
to the strategic plan of the council. And then there is I also attach, there'll be the new, resolutions from council that are relevant but not actionable. So there's something about that. House Sound Community Forum, these are the information items. And Metro Climate Change Conference, which council was talking about. Is a little information items for you. That's it.
Would the next meeting be the 3rd? It says the 5th.
Ooh, probably.
3rd's fine, 5th is fine too. It's a Friday, actually.
That's not fine.
It's
That's
not
not
fine.
That's
No.
not fine.
I won't be here for that, but
Yeah, that's a typo.
that's okay.
It's the third.
Perfect.
So Wednesday, July 3rd?
Yeah, it should be in your calendars.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so I see, I agreed to do something about where our garbage goes, didn't I?
You're gonna talk to someone in Metro Vancouver
Right.
and about maybe,
Okay. Oh, right, someone can come and speak or something like that. Yeah, okay.
all right. I think we're done here. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Lots of volunteers.
We're done. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Will. Thank you.